Davis, you are always sort of our Sherpa navigating us through the efforts to claw back and expose, maybe reverse that order, everything the Democrats did to weaponize against President Trump in the interregnum period between the two administrations. Can you walk us through the significance of this, the timeline, and what it means?
I do want to commend Jim Jordan, the House Judiciary Committee chairman. Better late than never. And this is an important oversight deposition because Jack Smith certainly politicized and weaponized our law enforcement and intel agencies to go after Trump, his aides, his supporters. The biggest problem for Jack Smith, you didn't hear a lot of the DC Republican politicians complain too much when Jack Smith went after President Trump, his top aides, his supporters. Where Jack Smith really messed up politically is Jack Smith spied on Republican senators. And these are not all of them are exactly MAGA senators, but he's spied on these senators. And I think that's when they finally realized this weaponization is probably not a good thing. Where Jack Smith messed up legally is there is a statute that requires disclosure to a senator if you spy on them. If you get their telephone records, you have to disclose that to the senator under this statute. And Jack Smith actually sought and obtained a gag order on that, where the telephone companies under Jeb Boasberg, this DC Obama judge, Jeb Boasberg actually violated that statute and said that these telephone companies can't follow the statute. They can't follow their statutory duty and disclose just this to the senators. They had to keep it quiet. And so that's where Jack Smith and Jeb Boasberg are going to run into a lot of problems.
And just walk us through what exactly the timeline is. Is this something that is going to guide them and where they should go with their investigation or potentially refer for criminal charges? Or is this sort of, step 5 in a 10-step process? And broadening it out, is this only going to be looking at what they did to senators, or do you see a potential for sort of zooming out into what they did to President Trump too?
I would hope that that's what they would do because, when you politicize and weaponize law enforcement, intel agencies to go after your political opponents for non-crimes, that's, as we've talked about for over 3 years on your show, Natalie, conspiracy against rights under 18 USC Section 241. Jack Smith's very familiar with that provision of the criminal code because that's one of the 4 charges against President Trump for objecting to a presidential election, which is allowed by the Electoral Count Act of 1887 and the First Amendment. Again, that's why you don't see Democrats in jail for objecting to Republican wins in 1968, 2000, 2004, and 2016. But when Trump's in office, Jack Smith seems to think that it's a crime. So I don't know. I haven't had a lot of confidence in the House of Representatives to do much about this, but maybe they can prove me wrong. I have more confidence in Jason Redding Quinones, who is my friend, who's the new Miami U.S. attorney. And we saw in court pleadings that he has impaneled 2 new grand juries, one in Fort Lauderdale and one in Fort Pierce, that are going to start up in January. If I were to bet, I would bet that you will find accountability in that Fort Pierce grand jury, which is where the Mar-a-Lago raid happens. So that's where I would keep my focus.
I'm curious too, obviously yesterday's cabinet meeting, you saw DNI Gabbard, obviously AG Bondi, a lot of references to weaponization and, the horrible crimes committed by the Biden regime. But I think this audience would agree, perhaps a little light on actual receipts, they call it retribution, we call it accountability. I'm just curious to get your assessment as we approach the sort of 1 year mark. Is this something where we should have more receipts by now, or do you sort of maintain or maybe more of the belief that it's just going to take time to do this the right way, that the process matters?
Look, obviously we want faster results, but if you look at what they have to do, they have to go find these records. Kash Patel had to find these records in burn bags within SCIFs, which are secure compartment information facilities within the FBI. They were trying to, the people who perpetuated this lawfare, this weaponization. We're trying to obstruct justice by illegally destroying the records. Fortunately, they found the burden bags of these records. These records got disclosed to the Senate Judiciary Committee. Chuck Grassley, the chairman, my former boss, who's the long-standing heavyweight champion of congressional oversight. It does take time. It took time to get Jason Redding Quinones confirmed as the Miami U.S. attorney. It takes several months to get a new grand jury impaneled, which has been happening for the last several months, which is going to be impaneled in January. I know it's frustrating. I know we want instant justice. We want instant gratification on this, but as I've said for the last 3+ years since the Mar-a-Lago raid, justice is definitely coming. I'm going to make damn sure that happens, and these lawfare Democrats better lawyer up.
So let's expectations set here. Just walk us through one more time the Jack Smith subpoena, what you think a realistic timeline for that is, or are you saying that you would be focusing primarily on what is going down in Miami, that's maybe a little more on par with what this audience is seeking?
I think that a grand jury with Jason Redding Quinones and really good federal prosecutors in the Southern District of Florida are going to get more results. I think that House Republicans tend to be performative with their oversight, bread and circus. But I think you're going to get real results out of the Southern District of Florida. I just a reminder of Jason Redding Quinones, one of my good friends. He grew up in a family of poor Cuban Americans. His family escaped Cuba. He grew up in a 3-bedroom, one bath house with his extended Cuban family of refugees. They know firsthand what it means to have a politicized and weaponized government and how dangerous it is to the liberties of the people who live in that country. So I think it's in Jason's DNA that you cannot have this weaponization, and there must be accountability so this never happens again. Like I said, as we've talked about, I've done over 5,000 media hits since the Mar-a-Lago raid, constant social media, constant opinion pieces, help President Trump staff up his all-star lawyers who won monumental victories in the Supreme Court, including on presidential immunity. I'm not going away. This is my mission for the next three years of the Trump administration, is to make sure that there's accountability, and I will make damn sure that happens, and I'll do it very publicly. I'm going to be a dog barking down the street on this for the next 3 years.
You've also been quite public about a lot of things. I know the audience loves your takes. Mike Davis always coming in hot on the War Room. But walk us through, there's obviously a huge back and forth going on over AI regulations, all that stuff. We're having Joe Allen on in a bit to go through it, but I know you have some thoughts too. Can you walk the audience through it?
Yeah, we have these trillion-dollar big tech oligarchs like Google and Meta. They got Section 230 immunity almost 20 years ago as these startup tech companies. And between Section 230 immunity and antitrust amnesty, we got the trillion-dollar big tech monopolist, Google, Amazon, Facebook, and Apple, that crush competition, shutter small businesses, and cancel conservatives and others with whom they disagree. I think we finally woke up to the fact that if you give gatekeeping power to these companies over information and commerce, it's not a good thing. And so here we are almost 20 years later, and these same companies now want, instead of Section 230 immunity, they want AI amnesty. They pretend like they want federal preemption, so state and local governments can't do anything about AI companies. For example, they can't outlaw what I call the pedo bear, these teddy bears that are talking in sexually explicit terms to kids, these AI teddy bears, these pedo bears. Apparently states and local governments can't do anything about that. So these tech bros want AI amnesty from state and local rules and regulations, from laws, but they don't want any federal rules of the road. So they just want the Wild West for AI. We've been through that with Section 230. We're not going to play that game again. The Article 3 project is teamed up with the War Room Posse. We did this 4 months ago when they tried to pass this AI amnesty in the middle of the night on the one big beautiful bill. They thought it was gliding to victory, and then at 2 o'clock in the morning, after maybe a phone call to President Trump, that thing went down 99-1, including Ted Cruz, its lead sponsor, voting against his own bill. If they try to do this again in the National Defense Authorization Act or any other must pass legislation, we're going to crush it again. If these AI oligarchs want federal preemption from state and local rules, regulations, laws, we need to have federal guide rails. We need to have federal rules of the road that protect the 4 Cs: children, communities, conservatives, and creators. We protect the 4 Cs, they can get their preemption. If they don't protect the 4 Cs, we are going to kick their asses again.
Mike Davis, as always, thank you for joining us on War Room. If people want to follow you, stay up to date with your myriad of fights you got going on, where can they go to do that?
You know, when you have red hair, you just fight everyone all the time. So it's article3project.org, article number 3project.org. Take action. Follow us on social media. That the action item right now is to light up both of your home state senators and your U.S. House rep and say hell no to AI amnesty. And thank you, Natalie.
Mike Davis, thank you as always for joining us. We appreciate it.
Thank you.